What if everything you thought you knew about your family was a lie? It started as a simple DNA test, just curiosity. But when the results came in, my entire world shifted. Generations of secrets, one unexpected truth, and a story that changed how I see myself forever. This isn't about numbers or percentages. It's about identity, family, and the powerful truth written in our DNA. So stay with me till the end, because what I discovered might just make you question your own story, too. It all started as something simple, just curiosity. For years, I'd wondered why certain things about me never added up. My family had always told the same stories, the same origin and proud heritage, but deep down, there was this strange feeling, like a missing puzzle piece that I couldn't quite place. Maybe it was how I looked different from my cousins, or how my interests never fully aligned with the family traditions. I used to brush it off, telling myself, every family has its odd one out, but curiosity can sneak back in when you least expect it. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I saw an ad for Ancestry DNA testing. Discover your true roots, it said. I smiled at the slogan. It felt like one of those harmless marketing gimmicks, but something about it stopped me from scrolling further. I clicked the link. It wasn't that I didn't know my ancestry, at least I thought I did. It's just, I wanted proof. I wanted to see those percentages break down, to confirm the stories I'd grown up hearing. Maybe I wanted validation, or to silence that quiet voice in my head whispering, what if there's more to your story than you think? So I did it. I ordered the kit. When the box arrived, it looked so ordinary. A small white package with green accents, the kind you'd expect to hold something as mundane as a phone case. Yet, as I opened it, I couldn't help but feel a strange weight settle in my chest. Inside was a small tube, a label, and a simple instruction card. Spit, seal, send. That was it. My entire genetic story, my past, my bloodline, my family was about to be shipped off in a padded envelope. I laughed to myself as I followed the instructions. It's just a test, I whispered. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just a test. It was a mirror, one that might show me something I wasn't ready to see. After mailing it back, life returned to normal, at least on the surface. I went to work, met friends, and scrolled through reels before bed. But somewhere in my mind, I was counting down the days. The anticipation built quietly, like a song playing on low volume that you can't stop hearing. A few weeks later, the email arrived. Subject: Your Ancestry DNA results are ready. I froze. My heart started pounding, but my hands were steady. It was a quiet afternoon, just me, my laptop, and the hum of the ceiling fan. I made a cup of coffee, sat at my desk, and took a deep breath. All right, I said out loud, trying to sound casual. Let's see who I really am. I clicked View Results. At first, the screen loaded slowly, the colored pie chart spinning as if it knew it was holding a secret too big to reveal all at once. And then, there it was. I blinked once, then twice. It didn't make sense. 42% from a region I'd never even heard of in my family. My eyes darted across the page. The percentages didn't match the stories I'd grown up with. It wasn't just one random mix-up. It was completely different. I remember whispering to myself, this has to be wrong. But the more I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't an error. This was a truth buried deep, quietly passed down, or maybe deliberately hidden. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of generations pressing down on me. All those family gatherings, the stories about our ancestors, the traditions I'd taken for granted, suddenly they felt like pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit anymore. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. My fingers trembled as I scrolled down, reading more about the regions and ancestral groups I supposedly belonged to. I opened the map view, little glowing dots connected by faint lines showing migrations over centuries. One line cut across an ocean to a place I had no connection to, or at least I thought I didn't. Questions started racing through my mind. Who were they? Why didn't anyone ever mention this? And how far back did the secret go? I grabbed my phone and opened the family WhatsApp group, hovering over the keyboard, unsure what to say. Hey guys, quick question. Any chance our great-grandparents were from another continent? No, that sounded insane. I put the phone down. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the screen, my reflection faintly visible in the darkened edges of the monitor. That was the moment it hit me. This test wasn't just about data or DNA. It was about identity. About realizing that sometimes the stories we inherit aren't the whole truth. And maybe, just maybe, discovering who we are means being brave enough to question where we came from. As I closed my laptop, my hands were still shaking. But somewhere, beneath the confusion and disbelief, I felt something else. A pull. A whisper from the past, saying, "Come find us." And I knew then this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. If you've ever wondered about your roots or felt like there's a missing piece in your story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because the next chapter will take you deeper into the shocking connections and emotional discoveries that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. When I opened my laptop again the next morning, the screen glowed with that same pie chart that shattered my sense of certainty. I barely slept the night before. My mind was spinning in circles. 42%. From where? How? I zoomed in, scrolled through the regions, and clicked the Learn More link repeatedly. Each time, the map expanded, tracing migration paths that didn't match anything I had ever been told. It was like looking at a stranger's story, except it was mine. I stared at the numbers on the screen. 42% from an unexpected region, 27% from somewhere I recognized, and a mix of smaller influences that felt like fragments of a forgotten tale. I could almost feel the weight of those unknown ancestors whispering through time. You thought you knew us. I needed answers. I pulled out the old photo box my mom kept in the hallway closet, filled with black and white pictures, letters, and postcards. As I sifted through them, something strange started happening. I noticed small details I'd never paid attention to. Names scribbled on the backs of photos that didn't match our usual surnames. Postcards with postmarks from places my family supposedly had no connection to. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a data mix-up. It was a missing chapter in our story. By noon, I had called my mom. "Hey, Mom, do we have any relatives from the southern region of Europe?" I asked, trying to sound casual. There was a pause on the other end. A long one. Finally, she said, "Why do you ask?" I hesitated. I took an Ancestry DNA test, and it's showing something really unexpected. She didn't speak right away. I could hear her take a slow breath. "I think maybe it's time we talked." Her voice was softer than usual, that tone she used only when something important was coming. I sat down, heart pounding. She told me stories I'd never heard before, about a great-grandmother who moved across countries during the war, about a rumor of a family branch that vanished, never spoken of again. My mother admitted she'd always suspected that our roots were more complicated than what had been passed down, but the stories were buried under generations of silence. I remember her saying,
Sometimes people hide the truth not to deceive you, but to protect you. That sentence stayed with me. After the call, I sat there for a while, the refrigerator's hum filling the quiet room. It felt like a veil had lifted, revealing not just my family's hidden history, but also the weight of choices made long before I was born. I opened the Ancestry website again, this time with a different perspective. I clicked on the DNA Matches tab. Hundreds of names appeared, some familiar, many not. I scrolled past distant cousins and third relatives until one profile caught my attention. A 25% DNA match. A close relative. Someone I had never heard of.
My chest tightened. I clicked the profile, a name appeared, and beneath it, a message. Hi, I think we might be related. I've been trying to piece together my family tree too. My heart skipped a beat. I wrote back instantly. The message thread became the start of something bigger than I could have imagined. Over the next few days, we exchanged stories, photos, and documents. Each revelation connected a dot that had been missing. Our ancestors' paths weren't parallel, they were intertwined. It turned out that our great-grandparents had once lived in the same small coastal town, a place wiped from our oral history because of conflict, displacement, and time. The past had been rewritten, simplified into something easier to explain. But the truth, it always finds a way to surface. Late one night, I stared at the family tree on my screen, a web of names stretching across continents. For the first time, I realized that identity isn't fixed. It's fluid. It evolves as the truth unfolds. I thought about my parents, my grandparents, all the people who carried fragments of the secret without ever fully knowing it. I wasn't angry anymore. I was in awe, because in that moment, I understood that my story was so much bigger than me. And while I still didn't know every detail, I knew one thing for sure. My DNA had unlocked a past waiting to be found. If you've ever felt like there's a hidden chapter in your story, don't forget to like and subscribe. The next part reveals what happened when I met someone who shared my DNA and how that encounter changed everything I believed about family. I couldn't stop thinking about that message. Hi, I think we might be related. It played in my mind like an echo that refused to fade. I read it again and again, the words glowing faintly on the screen. Her name was Elena. She lived across the country and took the same DNA test a few months before me. According to the results, we shared a grandparent, which was impossible. At least it should have been. We started chatting, comparing notes. At first, it felt surreal. Two strangers connected by invisible strands of history. But the more we talked, the clearer it became our family stories overlapped in subtle, undeniable ways. The names, timelines, and migration patterns fit like pieces of a long-lost puzzle. Over the next week, my dining table turned into an investigation board. Papers, old photos, and handwritten family records were spread everywhere. I pinned printed ancestry maps on the wall, marked regions with colored pens, and highlighted possible connections. It looked like something out of a detective show, except this mystery was my life. Every clue I uncovered pulled me deeper. I found an old marriage certificate tucked in a family photo album, a name I didn't recognize, yet it connected directly to one of Elena's ancestors. I felt my heart race. I called my mom again that evening. "Mom," I said quietly, "does the name Lucia Marin mean anything to you?" There was silence. Then she sighed. "You found her, didn't you?" Lucia Marin was my great-grandmother, a woman my family had deliberately left out of our history. She had fallen in love with someone outside her culture, a choice that caused conflict and silence that stretched for generations. Her story was erased. Until now. My mother's voice trembled as she spoke. My grandmother never wanted that part of the story told. She thought it would protect us. I sat there, stunned. So that was it. My hidden ancestry wasn't just a mystery of bloodlines, it was a legacy of love and silence. When I told Elena, she cried. She said she'd grown up hearing fragments of a story about a woman named Lucia who disappeared. We realized we'd both been living with half the truth, and now two branches of the same tree were finally meeting again. That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart felt heavy and light at the same time. Heavy with the weight of secrets, but light with the realization that my family was bigger than I'd ever known. I looked around my room, the walls covered in photos, names, arrows connecting one generation to another. And for the first time, it didn't feel chaotic. It felt whole. I whispered into the quiet, "Lucia, we found you." If you're still following this journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. In the next chapter, everything changes as I finally come face to face with the truth about who I am and what family truly means. The weeks that followed felt like living inside a dream, one that was both comforting and disorienting. Every day, I learned something new about the people I came from, and each discovery peeled back another layer of who I thought I was. I spent hours talking to Elena. We shared family photos, childhood memories, and those little quirks that only family members could have in common. It was uncanny. We laughed at the same kinds of jokes, liked the same food, and even had similar handwriting. It was as if the universe had quietly mirrored pieces of us without us ever meeting. But as the excitement faded, something heavier began to settle in. A quiet ache born of realizing how much of my family history had been built on silence. One evening, I sat in my parents' living room. The air was thick with nostalgia. On the coffee table lay an old wooden photo album, the same one I'd looked through 1,000 times before, but this time I saw it differently. The faces staring back from those faded photos weren't familiar anymore. They were full of secrets. Some of them smiled like they knew something I didn't. My dad sat across from me, watching quietly as I turned the pages. "You've always been curious," he said softly. "Even as a kid, you asked too many questions." I smiled faintly. Maybe because I knew there were answers no one was giving me. He nodded, his eyes distant. "We didn't mean to hide anything from you. We were protecting what we thought was best left alone." That line, "best left alone," hit differently now. For years, I thought family history was about pride and storytelling. But now I realized it's also about pain. And sometimes the effort to bury that pain can erase the truth along with it. Later that night, I opened my laptop again. The ancestry map glowed softly in the dark. I zoomed in on that region that had changed everything, the place that now felt oddly familiar, even though I'd never been there. I clicked through the photos and records, and for the first time, instead of confusion, I felt connection. That's when it struck me. My DNA didn't change who I was. It showed me who I had always been, a mixture of stories, sacrifices, and love stretching across generations. I thought back to Luciana, my great-grandmother, the woman who had defied her time for love. Maybe her story had been erased from our records, but her courage lived on in me, Elena, and every choice we made to seek truth instead of comfort. I decided to call Elena the next morning. When she answered, I said, "We should visit the town." She paused, surprised. "You mean where they lived?" "Yes," I said.
If we're going to understand our story, we should start where it began. That one decision changed everything. A month later, I was standing in a quiet European village that felt both foreign and familiar. The cobblestone streets were narrow, the houses close together, their pastel walls fading from centuries of sunlight. I could almost imagine Lucia walking there, her dress brushing against the same stone walls. Elena and I visited the local archives, flipping through handwritten records older than both of us combined. And there, in a brittle registry book, we found her, Lucia Marin, married, one child. The signature was delicate, but bold. I ran my fingers over it, tears welling up in my eyes. That tiny piece of ink, that one forgotten name, had connected everything. In that moment, all the confusion, all the unanswered questions started to dissolve. I realized that family isn't defined by who tells the loudest story. It's defined by the truth that survives, even in silence. When I got back home, I printed a copy of Lucia's signature and framed it. It hangs above my desk now, not as a reminder of loss, but as a symbol of everything I've gained. Because this journey taught me that identity isn't found, it's built. And sometimes, to truly find yourself, you have to be willing to confront what's been hidden. If this story has touched you, don't forget to like and subscribe, because in the final chapter, I'll share how this discovery didn't just reshape my past, but changed the way I see my future and what family really means.
It's been months since that day, the day a simple DNA test rewrote everything I thought I knew about myself. Sometimes when I look back, I still can't believe how something so small, a few drops of saliva in a tube, could unlock an entire hidden world of history, love, and connection. My life feels different now. Not because my genes changed anything, but because my perspective did. When I first opened that test result, I felt shock, confusion, even anger. But what I see now is beauty, in complexity, in imperfection, in truth. That test didn't break my identity, it expanded it. It made me realize that family isn't a straight line, it's a web. A living, breathing tapestry made of stories that stretch far beyond what we can see. Since discovering my hidden lineage, I've stayed in touch with Elena. We video call almost every week. Sometimes we talk about everyday things, work, life, recipes, but sometimes we dive deep into what this discovery means for both of us. We laugh at how similar we are, even though we grew up on opposite sides of the world. Last month, we met again, this time with our families. My mom and her dad sat across from each other, both emotional, both realizing that the pieces of a forgotten past were finally coming together. It wasn't awkward like I feared. It was warm, familiar, healing. For the first time in generations, our families were whole again. I've started documenting everything, the names, the photos, the stories. I'm building a family archive so that one day, no one in our lineage will ever have to wonder where they came from. No more silence, no more half-told tales. Just truth. Raw, complicated, beautiful truth. Sometimes I catch myself staring at that framed signature of Lucia above my desk. Her delicate handwriting feels like a bridge between then and now. I like to imagine she's proud. Proud that her story, once erased, has finally found its voice again. But beyond the history and the emotion, there's something even deeper that I've learned from all this. Family isn't just about the people who share your blood. It's about the people who share your heart. The ones who stand beside you through confusion, fear, and revelation, and love you anyway. When I started this journey, I thought I was searching for my ancestors. Now I realize they were searching for me too. And somehow, through time, through silence, through generations of untold truth, we found each other. If you've ever wondered about your roots or felt like there's more to your story than what you've been told, maybe it's time to look a little deeper. Because sometimes the truth isn't meant to hurt, it's meant to heal. And who knows, maybe your story, like mine, is waiting to be found. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more real-life journeys that remind us how love, family, and truth always find their way home.